Last episode, we connected the four worlds inside your company: ALM, PLM, ERP, and MES into a clean loop with clean boundaries and single ownership. Hard, but doable. Because it's all your systems, your rules, your masters, but now the hard version. What happens when control has to cross the line between two different companies? Let's imagine that your engineering data has to flow to a supplier, a partner, a prime contractor, another organization, with its own systems, its own rules, and no shared master. This is where integration gets genuinely difficult, and it's where I've done my most demanding work, including a program when we need to exchange the engineering data with a major industrial partner. Today, I'll show you how to do that without losing traceability and without it collapsing into a swamp of emails and spreadsheets.
Digital transformation time. Digital transformation time.
Two promises. If you're a founder, you'll see why cross-company work is where most of your traceability leaks out, and why fixing it is an advantage and not just a hygiene. If you're a tech lead, you'll get a concrete pattern for exchanging controlled data with another organization, and also the specific traps that make it fail. I led exactly this kind of work between an engineering company and a large international partner. We moved from a manual paper email mess to a controlled automated exchange. Lessons transferred directly whether your partner is a machine shop down the road or a multinational prime. Inside your company, you can declare a single master for every piece of data. One system owns the truth. Across the companies, that's gone. There is no shared master. You have your own version of the requirement, or the drawing, or the change. They have theirs. Two organizations, two sources of truth, and a boundary between them that no one fully controls. Everything heard about this flows from that one fact. And it compounds. Different systems, your PLM is not their PLM. Different processes, your change control is not their change control. Just remember how hard it's to negotiate between different departments. Different vocabularies, what you call a part, a revision, an approval may mean something different to them. Different security boundaries. You often can't and shouldn't give each other direct access to internal systems. So you're not connecting two systems, you're connecting two different worlds. They don't share a language, a master, or a trust boundary. That's why naive approaches fail. And when it's this hard, here's the default. You give up on control. You fall back to the lowest common denominator, email. Someone exports a drawing, attaches it to the email, sends it over. They reply with a markup version. A spreadsheet tracks who has what. A PDF gets printed, signed, scanned. It feels pragmatic. It's a disaster for control. Because now your traceability has a giant hole in it, exactly where two companies meet, which is, by the way, exactly where certification and liability are most exposed. Remember the drift from Module 1. Across a company boundary, it's the default state, unless you actively fight it. Let me make this concrete with a real program. An engineering organization had to exchange requirements and technical documents with a large industrial partner on a regulated nuclear program. The starting point was the swamp I just described. Document transfers maintained by hand, data duplicated across systems, exchange happening over email, spreadsheets, and paper. And the consequence was exactly what you'd predict. Constant risk of someone working from a stale or unapproved version. Slow alignment, a brittle evidence trail, at the most sensitive boundary in the whole program. In a safety critical context, that's not an efficiency problem. It's a control problem with real consequences. Here's what we did, and also the principle behind each of these moves. First, we stopped treating it as sending files. We started treating it as a defined exchange protocol, an agreed, explicit definition. What data crosses the boundary, in what form, when, and who's accountable on each side. The exchange became a controlled process, not an ad hoc favor. Second, we moved from manual handling to automated upload and exchange. And we've done it through a single hub. So exchanging stopped depending on someone remembering to attach the right version to the email. Third, we embedded integration between the engineering tools and that hub. So the data flowing across was connected to its source, not rekeyed by hand. The goal throughout, a controlled hub and exchange pattern instead of a tangle of manual person-to-person transfers. The result wasn't a tool deployment. It was an operational mechanism for keeping requirements and document baselines continuous across two organizations. The truth of what was agreed and what was current stopped living in someone's inbox. It started living in a controlled exchange. That's the difference between two companies hoping they're aligned and two companies that can prove they are. Here are the specific traps that sync cross-organization exchange. I've hit most of this myself. Each one has a defense. Trap 1. Version drift across the boundary. You update the document, they're still working from last month's. Across a company line with no shared master, this is the default. Unless you design against it. The defense. The exchange itself must carry version and status. Every object that crosses says clearly which baseline it is and whether it's approved. Never let a bare file cross without its identity attached. A file without its version and status is a rumor, not a record. Trap 2. Vocabulary mismatch. Your released is their approved. Your revision scheme isn't theirs. Meaning gets lost at the boundary. The same semantic problems we keep meeting, now across the companies. The defense? Agree a shared exchange vocabulary up front. A small, explicit mapping of the terms that cross the gate. You don't have to align your whole internal language. You have to align the handful of words that travel. Trap 3. Unclear accountability. Something crosses the boundary. Who's responsible for it? The sender or the receiver? If that's fuzzy, things fall in the gap. I thought you had it. The defense? Every exchange has a named owner on each side and an explicit handshake. Sent, received, acknowledged. The boundary is exactly where accountability evaporates. So that's where you make it most explicit. Trap 4. The convenience relapse. You build the controlled exchange, and then one day someone's in a hurry and just emails the file. To save time, this once. And the swamp creeps back, one exception at a time. The defense is cultural as much as technical. The controlled exchange has to be the easy path, not a bureaucratic hurdle people route around. If your secure exchange is slower than email, people will use email. Make the right way the fast way. Before you set up exchange with any partner, run these 4 questions. 1. Is there a defined exchange, a specific gate? Or are we about to default to email? 2. Does every object that crosses carry its version and approval status? So neither side ever works from a rumor. 3. Is ownership explicit on each side? Who's the master of what and who's accountable for each handoff? And 4. Is the controlled path the fast path? So nobody's tempted to route around it. 4 yeses and you have a controlled boundary. Any no and you have a future drift incident with a partner's name on it, which is the worst kind, because now the failure is shared and the liability is contested. Founder takeaway. Cross-company exchange is probably the biggest hidden hole in your traceability right now. And most companies never even look at it because email feels like it's working, but it isn't. It's hiding the risk. Closing that hole is more than just important. It's also a real advantage. A startup that can exchange controlled, traceable data cleanly with primes and suppliers is a partner big players actually trust. In regulated industries, that trust is a door opener. This is one of the places where getting the operating model right wins your business, not just audits. Tech-lead takeaway. When you set up a partner exchange, your instinct should be clear. Define the gate. Never hand over the keys to your internals. Agree what crosses in what neutral form, with version and status attached, and with a named owner on each side. Then defend that exchange against the convenience relapse, because the swamp always tries to creep back. You're not building a connection, you're building a controlled border, a fence, gate, and customs, all explicit. So we've connected the worlds inside your company and now across company lines. But there's actually one more piece to it, and it makes all these integrations pay off in a way auditors love. When your systems and exchanges are properly connected, something valuable happens, and almost for free. The evidence you need for compliance starts generating itself as a byproduct of work flowing correctly instead of separate painful documentation exercise. And that's the next episode. It's where integrations stop to be an IT topic and becomes your certification superpower. Recap. Across organizations, there is no shared master, so integration is fundamentally harder. Different systems, processes, vocabularies, and trust boundaries. The default failure is collapsing into email and paper, which puts a hole in your traceability exactly where two companies meet. The fix is a controlled hub and exchange, a defined gate, neutral data, explicit ownership. Never direct access to each other's internals. Defend it against 4 traps: version drift, vocabulary mismatch, unclear accountability, and convenience relapse. If this showed you a hole you didn't know you had, subscribe. Next, how good integration generates your compliance evidence for free. And in the comments, be honest. How does your most important engineering data reach your biggest partner right now? Controlled exchange or somebody's email? The answer is usually uncomfortable.
Digital transformation time. Digital transformation time.